Welcome everybody, this is the Weekly on EqualizerSoccer.com. I'm Jeff Kassouf, bringing this to you in presentation with North American Soccer Network, helping us out big time. You'll notice some changes throughout the show. We're very excited about those. First things first, before we get to any WPS action, the big news today, obviously, Pia Sundhage's roster announced, the U.S. Women's World Cup roster. Not really any surprises at all, I wouldn't say. Main omissions, Ashlyn Harris in net, which I think that with Jillian Lloyd healthy, it's pretty much expected. Yael Averbuch does not make the roster after foregoing the beginning of the WPS season, so that's an interesting one. And then Whitney Engen, Kelly O'Hara, some of the younger stars. Certainly I think going to be big time for 2015 in Canada. Just didn't quite make it, a little bit on the young side for 2011. So you can check out the full roster below. We're not going to go through all 21 players, but an interesting one. Japan matches coming up. We'll see how this team starts to click and gel. It's basically, it's kind of funny because it was, so much build up to today, but really the roster is exactly what we expected. Nothing really too surprising there. So now it's just it's crunch time, really. It's almost mid-May. Games start late June, and the U.S. Women's National Team looking to get back to the glory days. They haven't won the Women's World Cup since 1999. Conference call today, Heather O'Reilly talking about the Women's World Cup and the Olympics being pretty much on par, but I think that there's certainly some extra aggression out there with the Women's World Cup, especially for the U.S. after Germany's taken the past couple. I think there's really something to prove because, especially in the men's game, the men's game, the World Cup is much more heralded than the Olympics. It's a little bit more even in the women's side, but the U.S. is going to have something to prove. So Japan on Saturday and again next Wednesday. See how those games go because Japan is looking like a pretty good side ahead of this tournament in Germany. On to WPS, Friday night match again in Western New York. They'll have another Friday nighter. Didn't really help attendance. It actually went down slightly. But 3-1 for Western New York over Sky Blue FC. Sky Blue actually did fairly well to maintain possession, but never really looked like they were seriously threatening in this game. Alex Morgan starts things off in the 4th minute with a goal, and at that point it's kind of like, Sky Blue's in for a long day. But they were able to manage to keep in that game. It was 2-0 at the half. Adriana, the big story here for Sky Blue, comes in 64th minute. Within a minute, she scores a floating curler right over Ashlyn Harris. Really well done. We're talking about, she had a flight from Madrid to New Jersey on Wednesday, a drive up to Rochester on Thursday. Tired legs, still looked good. Very impressed with her. And then even Eniola Luco off the bench, providing some energy for Sky Blue and some speed up top, but really just not enough to handle the Flash. Marta gets a late one right after Adriana scores. 3-1's your final, and the Flash now, we'll get to it in a little bit, but good win, and now this Friday, really going to need to have some different players step up because there's going to be a lot of absences, but we'll get to that in a little bit. Other games, Magic Jack, 2-0 over Atlanta Beat. Perfect record still intact for Magic Jack, 3 wins in 3 tries, and Kristen Press gets on the scoreboard for the first time. Ella Macer gets on there, and here is some quick audio from Kristen Press about her first goal.
It's my first goal, so that was really exciting. Mainly I just come out and I'm trying to work as hard as I can because, the pace is so much faster than college. I'm just trying to transition into that, and in order to do that, I'm just trying to learn how to get harder into tackles and find some open spaces more than I was able to in the first 2 games. So I think I was able to a lot more for like a 20-minute span in the second half. I was getting some shots off, so it was good to see that the potential is there, so I have something to work for.
And obviously, on Atlanta's side, Heather Mitz gets benched. That's an interesting choice. James Galanis, head coach, really showing that he's willing to try some different things, and if players don't respond to them, then they might not see the pitch. So trying some different things. I did mention throughout the week, last week, I thought Atlanta might be able to surprise in this game on a small field. Atlanta really plays some compact defense. They sit 10 behind the ball. Doesn't sound like, from the reports, we had a couple equalizer folks down there, doesn't sound like they were able to do much. It sounds like Ali Lipscher had another big day, and she again continues to be the pretty much goalkeeper of the year at this point from all sounds of it. Philly 2-0 over Boston on Sunday. Tasha Kai gets a great goal, really just an absolute muscle goal. I mean, out muscles Ifeoma Dike, and shot goes off the post. Rebound, Dike really stops, and Kai, by continuing a run, diving header, it's 1-0. And then Sanderson with a tough shot in the second half there. Really liked Philadelphia's midfield. Jen Buczkowski, again, kind of unheralded in there, but she did well. Shanae Farrelly did well. Leanne Sanderson, obviously. And really, for me, best midfielder that I've been seeing so far, and we haven't seen as much of Philadelphia, but I think really Christina DiMartino is having quite a year right now. So, look out for her. I think that as of now, early on, obviously very early, but looking to be an all-WPS player right now, to be honest. Really tearing up that flank, and probably not getting as much credit as she deserves right now. But Boston, the word right now seems to be inconsistent. They looked to turn things around last week. They looked pretty good, and now this week, pretty much, all Philadelphia in this game. Boston had a couple of chances. Kelly Smith made some things happen on her own, but nothing terribly threatening from the Breakers. Never really felt like they were getting back into this game. So for Boston, it's back to the drawing board on Friday against the Flash. It's not going to be too easy for them, especially without a slew of internationals. Obviously, the Flash missing them as well, but Boston, the entire back line, going to be missing pretty much. So, we'll see how that goes for the Breakers on the road in Rochester. Question is definitely going to be who plays defense next week. This is the first time we're going to see call-ups really affecting the league. Throughout all the national teams, the U.S. obviously playing Japan. The Brazilians will be gone. Swedish players are out. Canadians are gone. I mean, you talk, anything, anyone really going to be missing. So it's time for some role players to step up. It's going to be by far the most affected weekend so far that we've had. So we'll see how these teams sort of adjust to it, and we'll see what happens in Rochester, and then obviously the Philly versus Atlanta game, and then we'll see how the women's national team does on Saturday and the in-between. Real quick, following up on last week, Giovanni Albanese Jr. with a great piece on attendance that a lot of you had a lot of reaction to. Some agreed, some didn't. I think there was a lot of good discussion there. Following up on it, another rough weekend for WPS in attendance, highlighted by the first ever triple-digit number. Magic Jack reporting 952. Sounded like a pretty rough attendance there. Hot day in Florida. Kristen Press even addresses it in the audio. 4 o'clock in Florida, not the best time, and it's only going to get worse as June, July, and August come. So maybe, I don't know, maybe they can change those kickoff times. We'll see. But another good week in the books. Another good week coming up. Boston at Rochester, or at Western New York in Rochester. Philadelphia at Atlanta, and obviously I think another, as we kind of kick into gear with the Women's World Cup coming up, U.S. Women's National Team and the rest of those friendlies across the world really will be really key to monitor. So until then, I'm Jeff Kassouf, EqualizerSoccer.com. This is the Weekly presented by North American Soccer Network, and have a nice day.